Hello and welcome to the Non-Aggression Podcast, which is the show where you can hear from young people who love liberty. My name is Asher Bookestein, and today I'm joined by these distinguished co-hosts, Debo and Luke. Why don't you guys say hi?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
For those of you who were here last time, welcome back. If you're not familiar with this podcast yet, we are all young adults who care about peace, limited government, free speech, and free markets. In this podcast, we're going to talk about what's going on in the liberty movement and discuss some of the biggest headlines in North American politics and sometimes the wider world as well. I'm very excited about today's episode. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
So first, Luke, we're really glad to have you on as this week's guest. Luke is a student from Florida, correct? And you are studying
yeah.
law, right?
I just graduated from Denison University.
Oh, you just
in
graduated.
Ohio
Congrats.
with a degree in history, and I'm a prospective law student. So
Okay.
I'm starting the application process, but yes, I'm passionate
awesome.
for law.
Awesome. And you said you're doing something with AIER?
Yes, right now I'm working at AIER, the American Institute of Economic Research, and I'm doing a research project. We're still trying to figure out what the topic is. All the interns are still working on that. But right now, my idea is commercial speech as protected speech under the First Amendment and how that impacts economics.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. There's a lot of, I feel like one of the headlines that I remember hearing recently about that is did journalists have the same free speech as, regular citizens, or is that different because, they say things politically and obviously I'm on the side of free speech, but I feel like that's something that was kind of in the news. And do corporations have the same free speech? So yeah, that's a really interesting topic. Yeah. Is there anything else you're working on?
Just law school applications.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. Well, good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely very interested in hearing your perspective on some of this stuff. Speaking of free speech, on Monday, President Trump issued an executive order which banned burning of the U.S. flag. Now, the executive order was a little bit misleading, maybe confusing to a lot of people because technically it banned inciting violence by burning the American flag. So essentially, if somebody burns an American flag and this causes a riot, then you would get this special charge for burning the American flag that caused the violence. Anyway, still really interesting. And what do you guys think about this?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Well, ever since Texas v. Johnson, 1989, and then U.S. v. Eichmann, 1990, flag burning or flag desecration is a legal practice protected under the First Amendment. It is protected speech. But it seems that the White House, when they issued their statement, is that burning this representation of the America may incite violence and riots. And their whole argument is the Supreme Court never ruled that flag desecration is protected under the First Amendment if it incites lawless action or constitutes fighting words. So this is the angle they're trying to do to ban flag desecration. Will it hold? I really don't think so. I think the law is pretty clear within Texas v. Johnson and U.S. v. Eichmann that this is protected speech, and I think the current Supreme Court will probably still rule in favor of flag desecration being protected by the First Amendment, which, in my personal opinion, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how they're going to prove that flag burning can incite violent actions or lawlessness. I think that'd be a very hard thing to prove, but it'd be interesting to see how they try to do it if it comes to an argument.
Yeah, that's my perspective as well. I'm wondering if you have any insight on how the whole fighting words law kind of stuff works, because I did kind of hear that there's some kind of special legal status if you say something that riles somebody out to commit violence. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I think a little bit. I might be a little mistaken, but
Sure.
It's like threats or acts. So inciting that violence is not protected. So
Okay.
I think trying to accuse someone or trying to instigate a fight between them, that's not protected speech.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think they're trying to argue that flag burning can equivalent that. I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem very different to me though, because like it's obviously a very charged statement to do, with a lot of emotions behind it, but it seems very, very different from straight up telling someone, hey, I'm going to punch you in the face. You know what I'm saying? Or something
Yeah.
similar to that. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Debo?
So the whole thing is like uh, it it's saying it's for protecting like what is the point of this law, like it's protecting the nation or hateful speech or something, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is it's little bit directly action on the First Amendment, as I think. I don't know that much of it. Like the thing is, I'm from third world country, so I wouldn't know first thing about America that in depth in terms of law. But the thing is, the whole viewpoint of if you burn the flag, that in their words and that you are declaring a war or anything or not word actually, it's a that you are disrespecting the country or something. That's the whole point of view that they are trying to portray. The thing is, okay, let's say a citizen of America is getting bad treatment or any they are finding a problem somewhere, and for that, due to the anger, they burn the flag, and as a result, and they will get like the law will come down for them just because they burned the flag. And how that constitutes with the uh, overall scenario, I don't see the point. I actually agree with Luke that I don't see the point. Okay, yeah, you think someone can do something just because they can do something? It's the whole point of, okay, I might dare to say TSA, I guess. Like the whole point of TSA is preventing terrorism or in the like. But the thing is, as far as I have seen or known, that didn't actually help that much. They just check on on the upper level. So I was thinking of correcting those two terms. It's
Hmm.
it's for prevention, but the thing is, uh, the point of it's completely opposite of the free speech. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and it really comes down to, I think, like people should have the right to do what they want to with their property on their property, and yeah, like I love my country. I love the American flag as like a nice symbol, and I have the American flag on some things, but I can also see I could absolutely see as a libertarian why you might want to criticize your country or government, and flag burning is one way of doing that. And so this is yeah, I really hope this gets struck down. Yeah, any other thoughts on this before we move on?
One last one, I think,
No.
is that President Trump doesn't understand that the First Amendment is there to protect speech we disagree with. It's not there to protect speech
Exactly.
we like.
Yes.
Because if it's just protecting speech that we like, then we don't need it because everyone likes it. But the whole point of it is that we protect speech that we disagree with, that we find offensive or disagreeable. And
Yeah.
clearly he doesn't understand that.
I thought Republicans were in agreement that cancel culture was bad. I thought all Republicans hated cancel culture, but all of a sudden it's everyone wants to ban the speech that they don't like, but keep the speech that they like. You can't do that. You can't make everyone happy. So, yeah. Well, speaking of unhappiness and unhappy event, that was a bad segue. A tragic event on this Wednesday, and if you're familiar with the United States, sadly we have school shootings every once in a while, and this was another one. 2 children were killed in a Catholic school in Minneapolis. And I didn't so much want to talk about just this event so much in itself, as sad as it was, but I kind of wanted to see if you guys have any thoughts on the political response on this, and kind of, I was just pretty disheartened by the political response to this as either kind of the culture war aspect of this, or like, or this would never have happened if guns were, more tightly regulated, and just kind of the political response to this. Obviously this is just a horrible, awful thing to happen, but I wanted to hear if you guys had any thoughts on the political side of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the culture war is definitely center to this. I think, as typical with mass shootings and other tragedies such as this, Democrats and progressives will use this as an example of why we need to have stricter access to firearms. For this specific case, the individual, who I'm not going to say their name, was a trans individual, if I do believe so. So that gives an opportunity for conservatives or more anti-trans side of politics to blame transgender individuals for this action, which kind of centers itself in the culture war.
Yeah, and just just for me, it was just kind of crazy how many conservative, kind of talking heads I was seeing saying, like, we need to ban trans people from getting guns. And I was like, hold on. Like, as an entire category, like, man, First Amendment, now the Second Amendment. Are we just going down the line? Like, man, this is just, I mean, maybe this is just kind of the movement where we're heading, where we're just gonna try to you just try to keep banning different groups from having access to firearms until I don't know what. What do you think, Debo?
I think it comes down to things like, okay, either be it a specific group or something, you don't see human as human. That's when this things happens. Like, let's say you are completely disregarding that they are humans. They have a right. They have the right. I think you guys have the right to bear arms, right?
To what?
Like, you have guns.
To bear arms. Yeah, obviously, no one has the right to take another person's life, obviously.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
we have the right in America to own guns and use them in self-defense, recreationally, things like that. And so that is protected by the Second Amendment, yeah.
Yeah, generalization is the main problem. Like, let's say someone does I'm not obviously comparing shooting people with like stealing, but the thing is, let's say the stealing is also a crime. So let's say specific people from a specific group stole something from a shop. Just because of that, the store owner can't just say that, okay, this specific group can't ever enter on the group, just because sometimes they might do something in the future. So that's the whole fallacy that I'm saying. Like, okay, they might do something, that's why I ban them. So yeah.
Overgeneralization. It's it's a problem.
Obviously, shooting and gun control, as libertarians, classical libertarianism says, like, more policies around gun control is always the problem. Like, it's limiting the speech or limiting the liberty. So yeah, obviously we would be against that. But the thing is, nothing more on that.
Yeah, and just kind of coming back to the leftist kind of side of this to kind of balance it out. Obviously it's very common after this happens, they'll just say, well, we need more gun control. Well, actually, which something that was kind of revealed as they were investigating is that the shooter specifically sought out a gun-free zone to commit the crime. And so kind of the idea is, like, dangerous people are looking for places where guns are banned to do their crimes. That kind of implies that if this place hadn't been a gun-free zone, they might not have chosen this school to do the horrific act. Did you have anything to come on that, Luke?
Yeah, actually. So I went to private school in Florida for my high school, and we actually had armed guards at our school. And generally, I felt safe having armed personnel on campus. And I know some people might think it's like strange that a school would require armed individuals there to protect students, and that way they should be safe. But a lot of institutions or buildings that we value already have armed guards there. such as federal buildings have armed guards there, jewelry stores have armed guards there. It makes sense that schools or some schools should have armed guards. I don't see a problem with that. I always felt safe with them there, knowing that if something were to happen, they would be the first responders there. They would be there much faster than the police would, and they would be able to risk their lives to defend us.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Speaking on arms, defense, and police officers, I also just wanted a quick touch on this. Maybe won't have a lot to talk about, but just kind of an update on an earlier episode. We talked about how Trump sent in federal troops to Washington, D.C., and so the news from yesterday was the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser said that crimes have decreased since Trump sent in the federal troops, but this has also contributed to a break in trust between police and residents. Obviously, less crime is a good thing, but how you achieve that is also, in my opinion, just as important. What do you guys think about, again, if we just want to touch on this real quickly, what do you think about the way that this was done? Debo? Oh, your thing lit up. Okay. Did you guys have any comments on this? If not, that's fine.
I mean, I had an internship in DC last summer, and I could say in my experience in DC, it did not feel like a safe city. But most cities don't feel like safe cities. I do remember specific instances at night with strange individuals doing some strange activities and feeling unsafe, even with like a group of 8 other guys and interns. And like us diverting our paths to not cross paths with strange individuals. Yeah. So I get the idea of crackdown on the law in DC, and understand that from a political perspective, Trump wants to do this because DC is the seat of power for the federal government, and if the city's clean or orderly and not crime-ridden, then it looks good for the current administration. However, it seems that this crackdown is scaring a lot of DC residents because they see it as a sign of growing authoritarianism within the federal government. And that's probably true. I mean, you're seeing police and military walking down the street with arms, patrolling streets and arresting people for smoking a joint, like we read in an article. So it scares a lot of people, and I understand why. But less crime is a good thing, but is it worth it? I think is a good question to ask.
Yeah, and just for context, I do believe that Trump does have legal authority to do this. There is some kind of legal precedent for 30 days, but kind of the concern is if this kind of becomes accepted too much because it's out of the ordinary, then it could start happening to other cities where it's much more of a legal gray area because it's not the capital, and people are warning this kind of thing has led to authoritarianism in other nations is kind of the concern. So, yeah, less crime is good, I think would be the summary, but how you do it is how you accomplish less crime. Do you want to create authoritarianism in the meantime? Well, kind of speaking of kind of that, wait, what was this? Oh, yes. So speaking of the federal troops, I believe it was, this is kind of related to that, which is why I put it next to him. So there is an alleged DC sandwich thrower who threw a sandwich at, what was it, ICE agents, or was it the federal troops? Do you guys, I don't have
I believe it was the federal troops.
Federal troops, okay. Threw a sandwich at them and was charged with a felony. And then essentially the grand jury threw that out, which good for them. But then just yesterday, he was charged down to a misdemeanor. What do you guys think? Luke, from a legal perspective, is a misdemeanor more fair for throwing a sandwich than a freaking felony?
Well, I'll be honest, this is an assault. You're assaulting a police officer, and it should be treated seriously.
It should be treated seriously, but I mean...
It should be treated very seriously. I think it's very lucky that he went down to a misdemeanor, and ultimately probably the right thing. I think it's a year in prison is what the consequences are going to be, and it should be a severe punishment, because let's say hypothetically that the punishment was not severe. Say it was a fine or a couple of days in prison. What that incentivizes then is that for protests, people are going to start throwing sandwiches at police officers, because it's no longer seen as like a drastic issue. And those sandwiches can then evolve into other things being thrown.
Yeah.
So the purpose of law is to maintain order, to maintain respect, orderly society. It is good that this person was arrested. Now, apparently, according to the article that we read, he was arrested because they pounded down his door with riot shields and rifles. That probably wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is a sandwich, but it is assault, and it should be treated seriously.
I agree with you that he should have been arrested, and agree with that. I'm a little bit more on the side of this was extreme. I mean, it seemed a little bit politically motivated, the way things were done, and I think, but I totally see your point about how we need to be strict with not just letting something off with this scot-free. I was just like, man, a felony charge. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how this works, but I mean, I would feel completely different if this was more physical violence, if this was more like a serious threat. But this, as throwing a sandwich, kind of feels like an impulse thing that like you're just like kind of like boo, boo, and you just like toss whatever you're holding the sandwich. That seems going too far if you're gonna lock someone up for years, up to decades. Like, really? But yeah, I don't know. What would your response be for that?
I mean, it should be treated very seriously. It's not assault with a deadly weapon, so probably not a felony. However, I think a misdemeanor, a year in prison, is definitely a hefty price to pay for doing such an action. But it should be treated very seriously. I mean, I would consider it technically an act of violence because you're using an object and trying to cause at least some sort of harm or embarrassment against this police officer. So, it is assault, legally speaking.
Yeah. Let me just. Yeah. Debo, do you have anything to say about this?
It's Luke already said everything. Like in terms of law, of course, that should be avoided because it's been made for a reason. But that being said, policies are more important, and policies and laws, if they are working in a good way, then okay. In good way, as in the policymakers and the law imposers, like let's say the police, those should be separated, because if they can make policies to like make your life hell, then the enforcers basically will abide on the policy, the policymakers made. So in classical liberal terms, we promote limited government. So here the limited government is the main perspective that I think I can throw here, because we don't have a limited government as of now in many of the countries, even though constitutionally that's kind of the way that limited government operates is there, but it's not being done right, I guess. So earlier the news was like it was a political tension or something. There was a political
can I just break in? You can I didn't want to hear what you want to say, but I just wanted to fact check something I said earlier. It was not the federal troops, it was an ICE officer. So I don't know if that changes how you feel about this or you feel exactly the same, but it was an Immigration's Custom Enforcement officer. And also the alleged DC sandwich thrower was a former U.S. attorney, which I just thought was interesting. You'd think he might know what is and isn't a serious crime as a former U.S. attorney. You think he would know? You should know better, maybe. But I don't know. Does that new information change your mind, or do you still feel the same, Debo?
Well, if it's an officer of the government, then it still doesn't.
Okay.
Because it is still assault. But yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, still assaulting an officer. So yeah, I mean, but I was wrong too. I thought it was a federal troop.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure because I didn't want to say I wasn't sure, and I wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong.
Yeah.
But it's I think the point is that there needs to be due process for something like this, and that every person should be treated the same. And so, that if a regular citizen does one kind of assault, they should get the same sentencing as any other person. And I think the reason why we kind of added this to kind of the Libertarian podcast is it seemed it was politically motivated because it was a leftist attorney who assaulted an ICE officer, and it seemed like there was going to be some political motivations to give them a harsher sentence, but then it went down from like 10 years down to 1 year. And yeah, but obviously I'm in agreement that assaulting police and federal officers is very serious offense. Anything else to add on this before we move on to the next one? We good? All right. Well, I thought we'd close out the headline section, at least, of this with something that's a little bit more lighthearted, and that is today President Trump issued the Making Federal Architecture Beautiful Again executive order. Isn't that sweet? So the president cares enough about how beautiful the buildings look around our country, and is finally standing up to do something about, frankly intolerable ugliness of some of the buildings. I'm just not good lookers. And thank goodness that we have a president who can really, really make things happen and make our buildings look better. Do you guys think this was a necessary executive order?
Necessary? No, not necessary at all. And with it being an executive order, it's going to last 3 years, probably when the next president comes in and signs away with it. So who knows how much is actually going to impact the architecture of buildings around the country.
Everyone knows you can build a building in like 2 days, right? Wait, wasn't Rome built in 1 day, if I remember,
like that,
about a day, 24 hours? Yeah. And everything moves really quickly when it comes to bureaucrats and politicians, so maybe even faster. But yeah, no, I did think this was just kind of funny because, like, I like classical architecture. Cool, but it's just kind of a silly executive order that probably won't really change anything. So that's all I had to say. Any hot architecture takes from the two of you?
Not hot I love classical architecture as well. But it does seem like a bit of a political move generally, because I think he knows is going to upset either some vocal progressives or Democrats on how they should keep what he considers ugly buildings. And I guess it's fuel for the fire why Democrats are always wrong.
Well, he did use the example of, I think it was a California office building that looks just kind of plain like a regular office building as an example. Like, no, this is America. We can do better than this. And, like, I guess my only question is, like, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to cost 10 times more than a regular office building? At what point? Like, aesthetics are important, but, if it's going to cost so many more tax dollars, where do you draw the line? I don't know. Just
if they say the whole news, like, okay, we are making the building more safe or something like that, or implementing new security measures, then I don't think that would have been a problem or something, but people would understand, okay, government buildings safer, okay, would be better. But architecturally, like, making it beautiful, that's something hilarious to see, because that's just more government spending. That's what everyone is talking about, that, okay, we need to keep it down and not find new ways to spend more money on the things that we don't necessarily need as of now, I guess.
Yeah, it does seem like it does seem like there's just been so many executive orders recently. Excuse me. There have been so many executive orders, and at this point it's just becoming a little bit like, okay, like there's better ways to do this, man. There's better ways to, if you want buildings to be constructed differently, like, I don't know. It also almost reads kind of like a suggestion, because it doesn't ban anything. It just kind of like suggests. So if you just read it as a suggestion, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can honestly kind of agree with the suggestion. I think classical architecture is very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it does serve a good purpose of showcasing, like, the federal government. Like this is the architecture of the federal government buildings. It makes sense. I'm kind of in support of it. Is it practical? Probably not. But
This is by far, you know what, maybe this is up there on, I'm going to say my top 5 Trump executive orders I'd support. If not, maybe even top 3. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't put that on the record. I should read through the list of executive orders before I put them on the record. But it's definitely not a bad one as a suggestion of nice looking buildings. Was there anything else in the news that happened recently in Bangladesh maybe you wanted to bring up, Debo, or anything like that?
Bangladesh is still ongoing that political unrest. As we have no government right now, it's still the interim government that's been going on since last year, from July, August, August 5. Yeah. So interim government is still running the government as of now. I think there would be an election happening in the next year on February, I guess, and the political situation is really rising right now because the main political party that used to rule for 15 years, they were chosen 3 times consecutively. So 15 years they ruled here, and
It's a long time.
they got doubled down, and the prime minister fled to India, neighboring country, and right now there is no government as of now. Interim government there is, and law is still pretty much less. So it's
So
complicated.
let me get this straight. There's nobody passing laws right now in Bangladesh?
No passing laws as of now. The existing laws are there already, and the police and the military, or the people that enforces laws, they are not doing their full job, I guess.
Oh, okay. So kind of maybe from the classical liberal perspective, that could be a little bit of a positive, but mostly a negative because rights are being protected.
Yeah, so the thing is, if I have to list the things that okay, these are not going according to the classical liberal perspective, the list would get like it
Gotcha.
would be made in a book. So I don't think that we can do that. But the thing is, at least we wanted the like rule of law to get there, or at least the laws should have been the main priority as of now. If that were to happen, many of the things would have been better. But the thing is, as I said earlier, when discussing the other things, that the lawmakers and the law enforcers, those two parties should be like separated. And if people on the power have influence on the law enforcers, basically police and other things, it always brings chaos, and we see that everywhere. So it's completely like in South Asia, it's everywhere. I'm not saying only Bangladesh. In India also, in Nepal. I don't think Nepal. It's a small country, but in other areas also. So other countries, Pakistan also.
Yeah.
Pakistan is a completely different case of things that going on. So
Yeah. That's, well, wish you all the best for however that turns out. Anything interesting going on in the great state of Florida, Luke? Any Ron DeSantis shenanigans or anything like that?
Not that I know of. I've
Okay.
not kept my ear to the ground on that one.
Fair enough.
I'm sure there's some stuff happening in Florida. There always
Okay.
is.
Is Florida one of the ones that's having a governor election next year or no?
I should know the answer to that.
That's
and
fine.
I don't.
That's fine. I know my
I think it might be.
my state of Michigan is. Let me just, is Florida having an election next year? What do you say, Google? Google says yes, 2026.
Yep, I see it too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I gotta keep my ears to the ground on that one. I don't know what's gonna be happening.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was just curious if there's anything interesting. Well, is there anything you would like our viewers to know about? Anything they should be keeping a lookout for, or anything like that? It's no problem.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No,
Didn't
usually
a
people
slot
have
here.
something to plug, but that's fine. You're just
Oh, I
just,
don't have anything to plug right now.
you're just happy to be here. Yeah, Debo.
I have a podcast ongoing, so
For sure.
people can see that.
There's a good chance.
We already published the third episode a few days back with one. He's like splendid people to be in a podcast. He promotes human respect, and I would
Yeah,
suggest
Juan.
yeah, I would suggest viewers to actually read on the human respect aspect. Basically, it's people confuse it with individualism, but the thing is, it's completely different. Not completely, but in some areas they overlap. But the thing is, it's a whole new concept that uh, he's promoting, I guess. So I think it's really great, and people should see their works. And if you want to know more about human respect and the concept of it, people should see the podcast that recently been published. It's Boy Talk. I think we can link in the description.
Yes, I'll absolutely link that in the description. It's called how do you say Boit Talk? Boit Talk?
Boy Talk.
Boit Talk. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for butchering that. But yeah, I'll definitely link that Human Respect podcast in the description. Yeah, Juan's great. Well, I think this was actually a pretty short one. We got through. We wanted to start keeping things brisk with the newer episodes, and you guys were fantastic. So, thank you so much, Luke. You've been a great guest. Can't wait to hear about what you get up to in the future. And thank you for listening to the Non-Aggression Podcast. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube, and you can also watch our clips on Instagram, TikTok, and the same YouTube channel. All right, see you guys.
So the viewers can actually send us some of the topics that they think we should talk about. That way, they can be engaged with the
Absolutely.
podcast.
Yeah. Leave a comment or send in. Does Spotify has comments, right? I should check to see if Spotify has comments.
It does, actually.
It does?
YouTube.
Okay. Maybe I
I think
should.
so.
Maybe I should start checking Spotify to see if we have any comments. But yeah. All right.
Okay.
See ya.